When building a model railway, there's something you should always bear in mind. Something that a lot of people forget about. But without them, the hobby couldn't exist. Train controllers. And in this video, we're going to talk about a few of the different types that are out there today. So, sit back, relax, and enjoy! Well, hello YouTube, this is Layout123, and this is a bit of a different video. Today we're going to be talking about train controllers. And what better way to start than by talking about the most simplest one that is out there. This little one, by Hornby. So, this is the Hornby R965, and on the top you can see that clearly written. If we just have a basic look at the controller, you can see it's got the standard speed dial and the directional, well, just the directional part switch as well. If we look at it, there should also be, but on this one I had to use the wires, a wire coming off which then connects into the track, and you've got the two different outputs here that you can then connect just some wires to have lights on your layout and that sort of thing. Very good as a starter controller. You can only really use one train at a time, I always found with it, and once they're a few years old, that's it, you've had it. I mean, when you first get them, you can use one of the little 040s with it. You can even use, say, something like the Eurostar, but then as soon as you sort of start doing double headers and that sort of thing, that's when the problems occur. It just cannot deal with it at all. I mean, I personally call it the starter set controller, because if you look at most starter sets, they come, or used to come, with this particular one. When I did the review of the Circus train set and the Eurostar, I didn't really mention what controller came with them, but these are the ones that you will see featured on that. And if you don't believe me, then I think the evidence is pretty conclusive. So what do I think of this controller? I mean, I think it's brilliant for if you're just starting out in the hobby and it's something you're looking to get into. If you're a serious hardcore modeler, then I don't really think this is the controller for you. I mean, yeah, they're great for sort of just doing maybe a little shunting bay or something. That's what I used to use this one for. But if you want to power double headers and the big sort of Helgian locos and that sort of thing, these controllers are not going to help you in that aspect. Another thing to point out which is good about this one is if you have a layout that you want to move, you can screw the controller down to the layout. It's got holes on each corner, and it's also not going to get worn out because you've got the metal parts here to prevent the erosion of the plastic. And it's not a ridiculously ugly controller just looking at it either. It's quite nice in its own way. I mean, they're very cheap nowadays, so if you are looking to start a layout, then I would say go for it. But if you're a modeler and maybe, I don't know, it depends really what you're into with regards to the trains, but I don't know, it doesn't cut the mustard anymore for me. Great controller if you're starting out. I cannot fault it for that. And let's move on. So this is the Hornby 2000 controller, and it is so simple but so effective. You can really get great control out of the trains, and with regards to locos with lights, I mean, with the one I showed you to start with, the lights would flicker, whereas with this, I mean, the controller just really works well. It just sort of, I don't know how it does it, but it manages to control the lights with the speed. If you look in the middle to know that the controller is activated, then the red light comes on, and this is just the box. And then when you turn the speed dial, the green light comes on either side. And I really liked this controller. It was around £100. I thought it was brilliant, but I've had it probably for 2 years, and the switches have worn out on it. And I'm a little bit disappointed really by that. The switch is worn out, and pretty much what I did do a video on it, but what happens is when you flick it to one side, unless you're holding it to that side, then the switch just turns off, which is a pretty poor show, and you can't open it up because it's got safety screws. It's a bit disappointing really, but oh well, it's 2 years old at the end of the day. I don't think the warranty was ridiculously long on it for that sort of thing, but I would say it is a good controller, and it's quite an easy one to get at the moment, because if you can get one second hand, they're normally quite cheap really. I mean, you see them on the internet for like, some of them as low as £30 now, so if this is the sort of thing you're looking for and you're sort of a serious modeler, then I'd say it's not bad. It's not bad. It could be better, but it's pretty good. Pretty good. And now if we just take a look at the back there, you see where the transformer gets plugged in, and you've also got the 2 outlets for track, which are so easy to put, not for track, sorry, for the cables that go into the track, and they just flick up and then you can just plug them in, which is just so quick. It's just really good. And then the uncontrolled ones are for things like points or lighting again on your layout. And just a little show actually, the lights in the houses on my layout are powered by the first controller I showed you, so if you look at it like that, they're pretty good just for powering lights. So if you wanted to buy something cheap to power some lights, there you go. And I think I've said pretty much all I can say about this one. Very good controller again, but the next one I think is just so brilliant and cutting edge that it's a must-have. And this one is made by Beatles, and if you actually look down at it, it looks a lot like a Gauge Master controller, which is something I wasn't expecting to say in this video anyway, but yeah, lots of people have likened it to the Gauge Master. And what I think makes this so darn brilliant is that, forget these parts, the part down the middle for a second, but these are exactly the same as we saw on the Hornby 2000 controller. But now let's talk about these. With this you've got the option to put the train on a brake and then let it go as well. And it doesn't just go from stop to start, it slowly brings it up to speed. And I'll show you in a minute, but it is a really good feature. I mean, it's something, it basically takes the controller sort of straight, it really just takes it into the next level of controlling it, because it's really hard to then get it to stop in the station by doing this. But it's a real work of art, and it's a great controller. If you're just looking at it, I mean, it looks a lot more purposeful, I feel. It looks the most, not necessarily realistic, because obviously, but it looks like a real piece of kit is what I'm trying to say. And if we look as well, the option to use the simulation of braking and starting up slowly is also something you can turn on and off, which is even better, because then you don't actually have to use it. I mean, the only downside I've got is that with the Hornby 2000, when you turned it round and you could put the wires in, they flicked up. You have to unscrew that and put the wires in, which is a little bit monotonous, but nothing too ridiculous. And inside this box there are some instructions for it, but if I go through them we could be here all day. And let me just show you the purpose that all these different controllers have on my layout. And just about visible in the dark here we have the Hornby 2000, and then to the left of it, with a wire going all the way up to the middle of the layout to where the houses are, we have one of the smaller ones that I showed you at the beginning. And the Hornby 2000 hasn't been forgotten, it still is used on most. And the purpose of the Hornby 2000 is pretty much just to power that little light, and that is it. I have the Beatles controller powering the actual layout now, and let me just show you the simulation thing. Right, so I've set the pace. If I just take the brake off, hopefully you will see just what I'm talking about. Yeah, I see it slowly brings the train into life, and then it will slowly come up to the speed I've set it at. Yeah, look at that. I mean, it is just brilliant. And that is all we've got time for in this little episode of Layout 123, and this is one of the longer videos actually. But thank you so much for watching, everybody, and thank you to everybody who subscribed and liked the videos, and all the great people out there who leave comments, because I know that it may not be the greatest channel in the world, but it's just a bit of fun, and I'm glad that people are enjoying it. So thanks very much, everybody, and see you all soon. Bye bye. And don't forget to leave a comment. What controller do you use? Why do you use it? And I haven't focused on DCC in this video, and the reason for that is because I have an abundance of 040s and don't have, well, the money pretty much to put chips in all of them. But if you use DCC, tell me what you think of that, because I'd really like to know. So once again, thanks very much for watching, everybody, and see you all soon. Bye bye.